Hey guys, today I want to share with you 20 things that you can declutter before 2020. And the new decade is almost upon us, which absolutely blows my mind. We're going to be in the 20s, but as we enter this new decade, I think it's really important that we take time to refresh our spaces, refresh our lives, so that we can go into the 20s with a bang. So I'm super excited to get into this, but before we do, if we don't know each other yet, hi, my name is Ashlynne, and I make videos every single week on this channel about minimalism and intentional living. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down below. But with that being said, let's get right into this. So let's get started. The first thing that you can declutter before 2020 is unused and underused subscription services. And whether you're subscribed to Amazon, Netflix, HelloFresh, some kind of box service, there are so many different subscriptions that we have that we accumulate over time, whether that's listening to music, streaming movies, whether it's a box service. There are so many different kinds of subscription services that we are given the opportunity regularly of subscribing to. And while some of them add a lot of value, others of them simply don't get used appropriately, and it's just not worth holding on to them. I highly recommend just going through and listing out what subscription services are you subscribed to, and simply unsubscribe from any that aren't serving you anymore. Next up, number 2 is to declutter your digital and physical pictures. And this is definitely an area of our lives that we just let accumulate and accumulate, and because it might not be as physical as other types of clutter, it doesn't take up as much space, we just tend to leave it off and never actually get around to going through our pictures. But over the next few weeks, take this opportunity to go through and review your pictures. Get rid of any duplicates. If there are any blurry ones or ones that you simply just don't need as memories, go ahead and delete them. We have so many pictures on our phones and on our computers, and oftentimes even physical pictures as well. Figure out which of those are actually memories that you want to keep with you going forward, and perhaps which ones you can go ahead and discard. Going through pictures can be a little bit time intensive, but one way to make this a lot more fun is to go through it with friends or family members so that you can laugh and share those memories together. After all, that's what the purpose of those pictures is. The third thing that you can declutter before 2020 is your phone or tablet apps. And this is something that a lot of us tend to just add to our phone. Let me just download this app really quickly, but we oftentimes forget to actually cull the apps that we have on our phones and on our tablets. Figure out which of the apps you've used in the past, say, month, and go ahead and delete any of the ones that simply you downloaded for a one-time use and no longer use. I find that game apps and apps where you get a discount for downloading a Shops app tend to be the most common culprits, but just figure out what are the apps you use and keep those, and just go ahead and delete the rest. Remember, with this one, it's really easy. If you ever make a mistake, just go to the App Store and re-download the app. Number 4 is chargers, cords, and cables. And I don't know about you, but I've definitely been the person to, whether I'm recycling it or otherwise, get rid of an electronic without actually getting rid of the chargers and cords that actually go with the electronic. On top of that, I just find that cables that you don't really know what they belong to just tend to creep into your house somehow, and nobody in the house actually knows what they belong to. If you have any cords and cables that aren't being used that belong to old electronics, you have too many of them, or simply you have ones that you don't know the purpose to, chances are they haven't been used in a long time. You're not going to ever use them, and so you can go ahead and just declutter those. Recycling these is a great option, so definitely check some of your local stores, because a lot of great companies are now offering fantastic options for being able to recycle things like cords, cables, chargers, and that's what we're trying to get rid of here. Number 5 is unused gifts, and we are almost a year removed from Christmas now, which means if you have any gifts that are lingering in your house from the previous Christmas that you have not yet used, chances are you will never use it. So go ahead and declutter those gifts. Whether you're re-gifting them, giving the item to a family in need, donating them, there are fantastic options for getting that item out of your house. But if you were given an unwanted gift and still haven't used it, you're never going to, so it's time to just move on. Next up, number 6 is gift wrapping paraphernalia. And a lot of times we will tend to accumulate large amounts of gift wrapping paper, bags, used tissue paper, new tissue paper, strings, ribbons, bows. There are so many different little accessories that are involved in gift wrapping. And oftentimes we don't use the vast majority of the things that we own. And so if you have an excess of gift wrapping supplies, consider donating those items, as well as if you have anything that you're almost at the end of or is simply not in good condition anymore, figure out a way of either using it in the next month or getting rid of it. Okay, moving on, number 7 is tickets and other sentimental papers, whether that's greeting cards or anything else really. There are a lot of sentimental papers that we hold on to for whatever reason, and unless you actively scrapbook, which I know I can appreciate but don't personally do, there's no real point in holding on to those little pieces of random sentimental paper. I think that a lot of times we're much better served by looking at the actual pictures of that sentimental event rather than just holding on to random ticket stubs in perpetuity. So take some time to go through those sentimental papers and figure out which ones you might be able to get rid of and be better served by simply the memory of them rather than holding on to the physical ticket. Remember, it's the experiences that are valuable, not necessarily the pieces of paper themselves. Okay, next up, number 8 is to declutter outdated wall hangings and home decor. And as we enter into 2020, I love the idea of being able to surround ourselves with inspiring spaces that are filled with the things that we love. But all too often, I feel like the things that we use to decorate our homes don't necessarily inspire us, whether it's because those items that we use to decorate our homes were given to us, or maybe we liked them at one point, but that was 20 years ago. A lot of times those items are no longer intentional for us. So just look around at your home, at the decor that you have, and just ask yourself, are the things I'm using to decorate my home still inspiring to me? Do I still love them? Does it bring me joy to look at them? If the answer is no to any of the items that you have that you're using to decorate your house, then definitely consider decluttering those items. Okay, number 9 is to declutter any board games, card games, or puzzles that you don't use. And personally, my family always plays the most games and builds the most puzzles around this time of year, and that's a really fun, sentimental part of this season. But as with everything, it's really important that we be intentional with this. As you're playing games, as you're building puzzles, look at what games, puzzles, cards might not be getting used. Use is a great indication of value, and so if there's a game that you haven't played in the past year, a puzzle that maybe you bought but have never built and it's been sitting on a shelf for far too long, whatever those items are, this is going to be unique to you and your situation. You only can know which games that your family likes playing, but go through those games, puzzles, whatever, and just consider, what do we actually use? Keep those items and declutter the rest. Number 10 is to declutter your linens, and there are so many items that fall into this category, whether that's tablecloths, towels, sheets, anything along those lines. If you have anything that is stained beyond repair, that has become threadbare, that needs replacement, or simply anything that you have too much of, go ahead and consider what linens that you have in your house, which ones you actually use, which ones are in good enough condition to keep, and just go ahead and declutter anything that doesn't meet those conditions. If you have anything that's worn out, consider donating those linens to a local animal shelter, as I know a lot of times that they can really value from those. And if there's anything you have that's in good condition that's not being used, definitely you can go ahead and donate those. And just a tip I like to give as far as towels and sheets goes, Christopher and I like to have on hand enough towels and enough sheets to be able to welcome as many guests as possible into our house. So our apartment can sleep up to 6 people in 3 sleeping arrangements. So we have 3 sets of sheets and 6 towels, which allows us to host the maximum amount of people possible without having any more than we actually need. So that's just a really helpful rule of thumb that I like to keep in mind, is just to have enough linens for as many guests as you can potentially have in your house. Okay, number 11 is one that I don't think we consider nearly often enough, but it is your pillows. If you have an old pillow that has gone flat, that can cause severe neck and back pain. It can give you difficulty sleeping. So just consider, do you have any pillows that are worn out, that have lost their life and no longer can really be used well? If that's true, definitely go ahead and declutter that pillow. But you don't want to be giving yourself back, neck, shoulder pain, sleep problems, all because you're using a pillow that you just have held on to for far too long. Number 12 is to declutter your office supplies. And there are a lot of things that fit into this category, whether it's dried out pens, used up pencils, erasers that have ceased working long ago. Perhaps it's tape dispensers that have run out of tape, or paper that simply needs to be recycled. If you have any office supplies that are no longer working or you have too many of, definitely go ahead and donate or get rid of all of those items. Schools and especially teachers often really appreciate excess office supplies, so that might be a great option to pursue for going ahead and responsibly getting rid of those items. But if you have anything that's broken, doesn't work, and has just not been used recently, find a way of getting rid of it. Next up, number 13 is craft supplies. And once again, this is an area of our life, like wrapping paper, that we just tend to accumulate a lot of, without actually going through and using a lot of the things that we have. We just always find one more project to buy things for without getting rid of things at the same time. So go through any craft supplies that you may have and ask yourself, what of this has maybe not been used in literally years? Declutter anything that hasn't gotten used recently and is never going to. And then also pay special attention to things like paint that's dried up, busted up paintbrushes that you're never going to use because they don't work anymore, and even things like sketches or half-finished paintings that you're never actually going to come back to. Craft supplies look like a lot of different things, but just consider, what do you actively use? Keep that, and just go ahead and declutter anything that's not getting used. Next step, number 14, is old planners and stationery. And once again, this is something that we tend to hold on to without necessarily cognitively thinking about why this is the case. Old planners you're never actually going to use again, so it's easy just to go ahead and move on from them. Likewise with notebooks, unless they have something that you're actively going to reference in them, there's no real point in holding on to them, and you can simply go ahead and recycle those items. Number 15 is one that might apply a little bit more to the guys out there, but definitely to all of us girls as well, and that's tools that you never use. I know that definitely Christopher has been given numerous tools for different Christmas, birthday, and wedding presents that he's never actually used, and I think that a lot of times tools get given in these large kits that maybe a handful of those items come in handy, but the vast majority of them never actually get used. And so if you have any tools that, whether you have a duplicate of it and you have 2 hammers, and why would you need 2 hammers for one job, or simply that you just have items that don't really fit a need that you have tool-wise, go ahead and just get rid of those items. Find a way of regifting them, donating them to a local wood shop. Get creative with this, but if you have excess tools in your life that you simply don't need, then there's no point in holding on to them. We're getting to the end here. Number 16 is to declutter excess kitchenware. And this can look like a lot of things. There are a lot of things that we use to prepare and serve food, whether that's extra baking sheets, whether we have too many vases, excessive serving bowls. There are a lot of different things that we use to make our food, but just consider, what of those items do you actually use and what do you maybe have too many of, or simply sometimes we have different items that are very gadgety type of bakingware. Once again, customize this to your life and what you personally use. If you bake lots of loaves of bread, then definitely keep your loaf baking tin, but just go through your kitchen and bakingware and consider, what do I actually use, and get rid of any excess items that you have, or any perhaps too niche items that you're never actually going to use. Okay, number 17, this might be a little bit of a gross one, bear with me. It is old bathroom items. This can mean old toilet brushes, old toothbrushes, moldy shower curtain liners. There are definitely some nasty germs that go around in bathrooms, shall we say, and oftentimes we just don't really think about how often we should be switching out some of the items that we have in our bathroom. Yes, I'm a proponent in fully using something, but sometimes we keep items in our bathrooms far past that point when it's been fully used, to the point where it's just kind of gross. Just consider, when was the last time you switched out your toilet brush? When was the last time you got a new toothbrush? Is there any kind of pink fuzzies kind of sitting at the bottom of your shower curtain liner? If any of those sound familiar to you, definitely go ahead and just get rid of those items. It's time to move on and find something new. Number 18 is toiletries and makeup, and once again, we tend to often hold on to some of these items long past their expiration date. Go through things like your nail polish to see if any of them have separated and are no longer usable. See if you have any nail files that have long since been used up. See if you have any old makeup that's separated, or simply anything that no longer gets used. Whether it's because something is expired, which means you didn't use it and probably should have gotten rid of it much sooner, or simply you haven't actively been using something and should get rid of it before it goes bad. We just oftentimes need to go through our toiletries and makeup every once in a while to just make sure that we're still using and loving the things that we have and not holding on to anything that isn't serving a purpose. And then just 2 more. Number 19 is hairstyling tools. If you have any unused blow dryers, straighteners, curling irons, combs, brushes, there are a lot of products that we use to make our hair look nice, and a lot of those things are fantastic, but only so long as we're actually using those items. If you like to wear your hair curly, maybe you can get rid of your straightener. Or if you like your hair straight, maybe you can get rid of your curling iron. If If you prefer to let your hair air dry, do you really need to own a blow dryer? Just consider what things you actively use to maintain your hair and keep it looking nice. I know personally a brush is something that I don't use, and so there's no point in me really owning one. So like I've mentioned with so many of these other items, if you have something that's not getting used enough or simply that you have too many of, there's no point in holding onto those items and you can just say farewell to them. And finally, number 20 is to declutter promo items, whether that's t-shirts, cheap tacky sunglasses, ball caps, you name it, it's probably been made a promotional item before, and a lot of times companies and brands will just hand out these items that are logo written to us, and they just kind of sit at the back of our closets, never actually being used. If you have logo items that don't get used, that you don't like, but have held onto for whatever reason, just go ahead and let go of them. And then if you want to, just resolve not to bring any more of them into your life in the future. Learning to say no to promotional items is a fantastic step to being able to reduce waste and as well as the personal clutter that you bring into your life. So that's it. Those are 20 items that you can declutter before 2020 begins, and we have just a few weeks left in 2019. So I really just want to encourage you to make the most of it. Declutter some of those areas of your life that are maybe accumulating clutter so that you can go into this new beautiful decade with a fresh start, with this clean, relaxing environment that you can build around you. So I'm curious, I want to hear your goals. What do you want to declutter before 2020? Comment that down below. I would love us to be able to all encourage each other to just simplify our spaces as we head into the new year. And also remember, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. I'd love to have you. But that's everything I have for you today though, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.